Welcome to the lovely IHP community and the 5D collective, all of those who enjoy actual health and actual beingness. And now that I know how to continue reminding anybody who stops by, being yourself is only if you have your physical, mental, and emotional health in the forefront. So you do have a window of welcome to the knowledge of that which is a integrated brain and a anchored in ventral energy, which means using your mammalian heritage. So last night we had a lovely late HP show. If you want, tune in. You don't have to. But in the meantime, what gives me peace and contentment, what I am so happy to know, the spiritual ones, all of us who are spiritual self-agents, we know we're not needed. Because spiritual really is about your life as a soul, which is an energetic imprint. So spirituality. Thank you, Dr. Daniel Siegel, for a lot of acronyms and words. He got invited to spirituality conference because he's a man that is spirituality, even though he says, but I'm sciences. They explained to him, Dr. Daniel Siegel, you live a life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self, so you are spirituality. And as Sadhguru shares, when you are spiritual and in the spirituality essence of you, and here's where, let me give you the translation, an integrated brain, restorative, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating person. I'm also an Akashic record reader, so I'm mastering the physical mastery of me right now as I continue to let you all know my biggest pet peeve. I have this thing, God chimes in every now and then to remind me not to let you all know that I, as an empowered feminine, do not enjoy any of those which are masculines, and it's not about man. No, it's about those who are imprisoned with their left mode and are Cuscos. And I don't want them to waste my fucking time because I promised God as a good little girl, and as people like to tease me, yes, I made a promise. I hold my promises. As a child, I said, yes, God, I promise that I will follow Jesus because he's love, and I will follow you because you're love, and then I will also follow the Holy Spirit, and I will not follow the mean people who I got taught by a lovely grown-up called Mother, who I need to just stand, be polite, and then go to her. Mommy, 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 they're scary. They're mean, and to this day, I'm the same child. I'm just a grown version of myself as a functional child adult, and I have no shame. In fact, I love to love, and I'm afraid, yes, and I don't have shame. Because I don't have shame of fear, those who do act like the same 11-year-olds that I saw in my hypnotherapy session, which is mean, which is nothing more than poor unfortunate souls. So sad, but true. That one wanting to be pretty. That one wanting to go and get girl, boy, whatever, and bullshit their way through life. And do they know they don't go to Patrick Chan? So they can hang out together and think it's dangerous to have no emotions. Flashback, teenage girls who think that I don't have any emotions because I'm like, okay, come on, you're getting really vicious now. They just broke up with you, and men, by the way. So with that, Hierophant. It's a marriage between your own masculine and feminine. Luckily for me, I can tell you all about how, yes, divine feminine, empowered feminine, not divinity, nor is, one human being. Spiritual self-agents know how a life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self can only happen when I'm in my capacity to be in my present. Thanks, Dr. Dan. So present means my default mode network is down-regulated. I get curious, open. I'm also accepting and loving of you. I'm also aware of Maria, and I also know I'm a guitar string. That means I'm a physiological state. My only trauma time is with my mother and my twin because that's my 3-year-old. So I actually take very much into seriousness, regulating my nervous system into my ventral vagal state. Not using my angry butthole to go to my BFFF of all times to let her know, wow, you lied to me, and I promised that I would forgive, and you actually, you know what, I'm going to take accountability because I gossiped with you really not nicely about a person. Forgive me, God. I'm not ashamed, but I do know I made a mistake, and now I know people that I consider my BFFs of all times aren't actually going to be with integrity, meaning that to cover their own asses, and they allowed themselves to bring, but I'm not going to point a finger because, again, that's lame. It's lame. Cowards do that. Let me find someone to blame versus I made a choice, consciously speaking. I accept the consequences of my actions. I learned something and I expand. There you go. So it's really fun to be securely attached and untraumatized. It's boring to meet every emotionally immature human being who will come up with some bullshit story for me, which is why I'm an empowered feminine because, again, please, yes, God, don't waste my fucking time. But because I consciously will choose to hang out with people and I can't make them go to therapy, because my therapist that I learned from told me, Maria, you can have self-awareness, accountability, and regulation, but others won't. And when people say you can't always be on, you're like, Deb Dana actually trains her therapists to always be on, because my ventral energy is a reminder to your ventral vagal state that you can do it too. And the 5D collective is only going to be inspiring human potential, because that's exactly what I do. So this is not between a man and a woman. No, because men don't know how to commit, and women apparently are sob stories waiting for the next hero to come in. And I don't do either, because a man is only a man if they take good health, physical. Otherwise, you're really not healthy. And physical means mental, emotional, and your body. So moderation, as my mother consistently had informed me as I was growing up, it's your body, it's your life. So while I'm sloppy about a lot of things, I'm not sloppy in ways that are excessive. In fact, it's funny when you meet emotionally immature people. Do you know what they like to do to people such as myself? They like to point out our imperfections and our flaws. And we say, yep, I can make fun of myself too. I know that I'm imperfect and flawed. In the meantime, I get to know how my body continues to live eustress. What about you? Do you have eustress or do you have distress? Because distress looks just like me on the outside, but on the inside, yes. So anyways, I support people who want to be their self, because I don't really help you. I can simply say you can be like me, but not me, because I'm one of a kind. You're one of a kind. And when people think that's egoic, no, BFFF, I'm not a snob. I'm just confident. Now I know, Maria, because I know you. How many people assume based on a conversation, no, based on even just a title. I mean, really, I'm a marketer again. I don't, though, want the masses that are idiots who run off of Facebook for something that is not even intellectually in any way, shape, or form informative. And when people think it is, I'm like, brainwashing? Really? I guess you're one of those who follow the 7 to 14 pseudo-intellectuals. I don't, because I'm not an idiot. I know how to spot them like a hawk, and now I even have a word for it. And yes, God, don't worry. So that's why he taught me how not to play a know-it-all. In the meantime, I can also let you know, Sadhguru talks about karma, and it's in a very specific way, and I don't do karma, I do dharma, because I'm the owner of this. My 14-month-old, she's mine, and so when she gets in her little butthole and is all pissy in her pants, I know how to handle it, because that's how my mother handled me. And that's why determined, Robert Sapolsky, if people have no free will, it doesn't really matter, right? Because the only ones who'll be here again are the ones who are married to their own self in a way of being their own lover. So yeah, I take care of myself, and I don't want to be around sloppy people, because when I get sloppy, it's a very little sloppiness. But when I do get told how to live moderately, I hear, and I don't pretend that I'm doing life right. So that's why when people make fun of my imperfections, I say, yes, I'm aware of them. And luckily, I keep my own self in check, because I do cherish this thing called life. It's a miracle. Thanks, Neil deGrasse, and thanks, God. I do use my brain effectively. I'm also okay with moderation. So yeah, we don't have to be clean freaks. Everybody who's getting off of eating sugar, all of a sudden, I'm like, you do realize it's not just sugar. And you do realize it's not just alcohol. And you do realize it's, yeah, the environment really needs us, like now, not tomorrow. How many hands are all together? Anyways, God also reminds me, it's okay, Maria, the big picture. Oh, yes, the 4D mystics think that there's some superhero, supervillain war going on, Luciferian era, some evil forces are going to come get ya, and, you know, in the meantime, 3D, 4D ain't going anywhere. I learned about that one, and I now know how to make fun of them, because the poor unfortunate souls, so sad, but true, they make up bullshit stories. And they don't even know how to get out of them once they're in them. But there are the relationship soul age group, the enlightenment soul age group. And so what gives me peace and contentment is that I don't need to be here, because integration of the brain and anchored in ventral energy is what your body's already trying to get you to, and it's an embodied brain. And as the somatic therapist said, they're all doing it. I said, well, Gabor Mate, no, I didn't say it, but somebody did. And they said, Gabor Mate said we have bad guts. No. I'm like, Gabor Mate's right, because you know how many people like to tell me that mindfulness practices with mindset skills and the inner growth mindset is patching them up, and that their attachment flares when they come up have nothing to do with their papa mama wounds and Yeah. So when I meet pretenders, I know who they are because they consistently give me a story versus getting their masculine, their mind empowered, and their feminine, their body empowered. So as long as you're not anchored in ventral energy, you're not going to be back here. Because here is where you create resiliency in the restorative embodiment. Not, you're asking me to have one emotion. No, I'm not. And when people get spiteful, by the way, yes, that's the part of where I love my mother to death because she will every now and then remind me, you're doing it out of spite. I say, no, mom, I'm doing it out of ego. And my 3-year old, not out of spite. I'm not a spiteful teenager. I recognized you grown ups knew what you were talking about some things. And then I recognized that you grown-ups don't know a lot of things, and now I'm a grown-up myself, and I recognize that anyone who's an emotionally immature human being is an adaptive child part, which will make up excuses, go and spite themselves, and I will not be engaging in any of it because it's not a siren. I know how to differentiate. Thanks, Dr. Dan. So the smart ass who loves information loves to build a community of people who care about themselves, not a community of those who are trending topics. I am an online marketer. Did I mention that? And I'm an online entrepreneur. And as a mystic, I love to be mystic, and I love knowing, as an academic at heart, that while I am woo pseudoscience, I'm not pseudo-intellectual, and I can't wait to hear about empirical mysticism. They're already doing science and spirituality in school, so I'm a little old, which is why I'm not always familiar with that which is happening in academia. Luckily for me, I like to ask the younger generation who do care to learn what they're learning, and then I get to hang out with the smart ones of academia, not the bullshitters. And when I meet bullshitters, well, again, I know who they are. So the animal and the pilgrim, these two cards wanted to speak to us, at least to me, and I will share it with you. Okay, so look at how beautiful this knot is. Can you see? Yes. Now, there's no ball and chain, but I had noticed at a certain point the red eyes of this dude, and I'm like, this is an interesting one because I'm thinking, is this the red eyes of someone that I need to actually, is this a kind of pact that isn't a positive pact? Because, the cards in and of themselves are basically moving from Hierophant to Lovers, but I'm not going to make any conclusions. Let me not draw any conclusions. However, yes, the eyes of this Hierophant, it's a trickster. That's what my intuitiveness for that one is, the trickster part. But again, let's not dive in too much in these. It doesn't mean anything, potentially. Not the cards. The cards mean something. The eyes. But the eyes called to me, so I will talk about that again, because we have two sides to ourselves. Every person. I have an ego like you do. The difference is I have common sense, meaning I'm not going to spite my own parent. Now, we're all a physiological state. That's why I say, yeah, mom, my ego saying, but I'm not spiting you because that would be ridiculous. That's stupidity. Spiting anyone is a low frequency. I promised God I wouldn't be in a low frequency and be jealousy spite. Anybody know those basic? I take my Christian Catholic upbringing seriously, but apparently people want to spread rumors about yoga bringing demons out of you, and they think they're more of that which I got taught. And again, they're using medieval times. That's why I don't use medieval times. I use anima mundi. The modern day times, we bring it all in. The ones who don't like us, they call us names. Not creative. Anybody who just uses calling names to people means that you got a teenager in the room. Siren, welcome. Have fun with your pseudo intellectuals and all the bullshitters. At the end of the day, again, nobody who is a creative and who is a creator and who is a brain of themselves is going to be threatened by different stories. The ones who are, they are imprisoned by their own words. The left brain of people who are not integrated. My peace and my contentment come when I found out I'm not needed. Oh, it's so amazing. All my brothers and sisters are saved. They all can become their own lovers. Thank you, Patrick Chan and Terry Rio. I love you, man. I love you all, man, because, polyamory, we love everyone. And hey, by the way, no, we're not whores. And no, we're not thinking wedding bells, because don't you know, once you fuck them, apparently they have contempt, disgust towards you, and shame. You don't know where that goes. But you're just trash. As my teenage medieval friends in the 1996, I'm just thinking, what the fuck? So when people are ignorant, they stay ignorant and they can go hang out with their silverbacks and continue to conduct their life in the most egregious of humongously humorous ways. So when I see people who don't know how to be the hermit and the wheel of their own selves, the wheel of fortune, I don't need to do anything. Did you know that there's shamans for clowns? Yeah, I found that one out, and I've seen how they work. I mean, wow. Let me tell you, as a human being who wishes that everybody would go to Patrick Chan and Terry Real, and then I get to actually engage with these individuals, and they look at me, I'm smart, right? Yes, I never said you're not. You give me a lot of good regurgitation of material. I notice you also get taken advantage of. No, I don't. These are all my allies. Are they now? They're your allies. I love that they're your allies. I love you more than you think, even though, I'm putting up with some bullshit. But listen to me. I care about you. Did you not notice that you completely have lack of moderation? If there's a room, you just go in and say yes, and you think you own the world and you don't. Okay, so this is the part of when people find a way to make sense of their bullshit and they ignore common sense, you can't do anything. Dr. Daniel Fox, thank you so much. They lack the awareness of them having mustard on their chin. So the wisdom of being your mammalian heritage, the animal, then the pilgrim. Let me read to you. So the Hierophant again. There can be tricksters. I know when I find them because they call each other power couples. I got a ring. I got him in my heart. No. I ain't filling a hole. You the better bet because you're longing. You don't own that nervous system. Go get yourself securely attached. Get interesting. Don't stay boring. Don't be an avoidant who says, because you're picking on avoidance, I'm just going to let you know that life is suffering. Not for the Christian Catholics. Jesus died for our sins. He suffered, for our sins, bore the cross. I'm supposed to rejoice. And also the Dalai Lama. When people go up to a Dalai Lama and say, how dare you smile in the face of suffering? Wow, you must have not learned who the Dalai Lama is. You really don't know how to prepare yourself when you're traveling. I mean, I don't always have to prepare myself, but if I went to other cultures, I will know looking in someone's eyes is bad manners. I'll also make sure not to go to those countries that will find me completely, that I'm not going to go. I would love to, but, I do know who Maria is, and let alone do I want to be, ending my life to go see some place that is not welcoming of me. So I'm just saying, I'm okay with the world being divisive because usually the divisive ones are the ones who, simply put, they really don't know it's one globe. They really have a hard time seeing somewhere over the rainbow. So the ones who don't see far are the left motors. I'm not interested in lecturing anyone because, again, God is good, and I know my brothers and sisters don't actually live with Lucifer. Their hell is in their body and in their brain as they think of ways that they're going to get fucked over, and then their pathologies, and they can coexist, and the laws, they do what they can. So unless you want laws to be extreme, meaning everyone go to therapy, you must, I mean, I'm okay with it, totally. Not the bad ones, though. No, not the one. My colleagues are against me. So that's the part of where black and white thinking doesn't exist out there in the world. And those who don't understand it, I mean, again, I'm humored. So the animal, mammalian heritage, demands, these words, demands we get comfortable in our own skin. The minute you accept, express, and celebrate the physical body, you tap into the animal energy. Obviously, here's where the way that the darkness of the animal is pent up emotion, lashing out, savagery, when instead in its light element, vital, elemental, live dances. Okay, so what I'm going to tell you about the animal is when you have your mammalian heritage, which is what you're meant to be in, now I have a spiritual self-agent, a true spirituality human being like a Dr. Daniel Siegel. That brings me joy. When I meet those who are sirens, I don't do anything. They're a small energy. They're also stupid, actively stupid. Not a little bit. I may be stupid because people think I'm stupid because they are imprisoned by their logic and don't allow a person who navigates the world differently to speak. But we learn how not to speak with the dum-dums. Never seen a medium ever. That's a dum-dum. You don't know mediums because you're not a mystic, you're a science person, so you don't believe in it. That's great. You know how to be grounded in reality like Sam Harris? Do you know how to be an actual intellectual? Or are you an asshole intellectual? It's fine, I can still learn from you, because I learn from anyone. The point is, anyone who has the capacity to be the actual mammalian heritage of theirs will be... I love you, Dr. Dan. He is so gracious with people that I have no patience. I am an empowered feminine. Did I mention that? I come with God. Who humbles me is science, not the other way around. Because it's a scientist when I'm looking at Peter Levine as he's describing to me what happens to a poor 0-1-year-old, and that's the part of what men, women, and days, whoever it is that wants to keep telling me neuroscience, what someone has to believe in. You're the same group of people who don't believe in a lot of things. I know when data replicates itself, which is why when I see morons on a screen or off a screen, I don't go around telling them anything, because as a teenager, I noticed what ego does. Bullshits its way through life. I don't bullshit my way through life because I do care about living. And as a child, again, I made a promise. So one can learn about themselves, our personality patterns, our personality types. Thanks, Dr. Dan. He is amazing. It's thanks to him that I got the last little pieces of Maria, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Now I can rule my own world. And there you go. And so the pilgrim, this one is really awesome. The wanderer, the traveler, the apprentice. And we all have a deep calling, no, a deep longing to answer the call, to get unstuck. This is, again, words for people who are teenagers. The unstuck is your 0-1-year-old. So I'm actually going to let you all in on a fun fact. People who don't own their child parts, they like to play dress up. I'm not dressing up. And that's the part of why when you hear somebody say prophecy is somebody who can channel the heart and mind of God, what I'm going to let you know is anybody who does even remotely have a relationship with Akash, who is a spiritual self-agent, will allow themselves to let you know, I'm going to share with you the truth. I exist. My soul and your soul are the same. You want to call it source, spirit, you call it whatever you want. You're a piece of it. I ain't divinity. You ain't divinity. But I do understand my brothers and sisters when they're talking. Each of us has a voice for different reasons. I'm here bringing the human elements to the spiritual elements. And the life of spirituality is fun because Maria doesn't need your pat on the back, because I don't even need it from my mother. You can't spank me. It's in my body. That's my ego. And because I still got to go make my suitcase after I got a spanking, I didn't have any pent-up energy. So my animal, she's happy and dandy, which is why you can't fuck with a 3-year-old who doesn't believe in you monsters. There's no monster. There's simply put, if you're a trickster, you make a promise and you don't uphold it. Death, your part, sickness, and in health, rich or poor. How are you going to get old? That's my question. Because see, long-term thinking means you plan, and then it means you give yourself wiggle room. And like Dr. Daniel Fox says, we all have maladaptive patterns. No, some have actual maladaptive patterns. They don't take them seriously, and they continue to do inner and outer critic, hooked on drama, hooked on their sympathetic and modulated embodiment, like that fancy lady in a suit. And she looks fabulous, and so does the fancy man in his suit. And they both give people what they want. A story, so that they can continue behaving like idiots. Wedding bells and the no text, really? Wow. I just think that any person, woman, who's insecure that came across that video, I hope they have the same kind of capacity to understand that's a bullshit video, because not texting me back, one, thank goodness, because you having disgust, contempt, and shame. I'm thinking, what the fuck are you doing fucking, and why are you not in a therapist room? That's the minute I heard. And when I'm thinking this human being thinks they're offering value, I mean, I get it, I can get taken out of context, but you're giving a 1 minute short with that bit, and you don't end with saying go get yourself help. That isn't valuable. That's simply a statement for those who want to hear that statement. So it's not misinformation, disinformation. There are people who think in their ignorance and in their pent-up immaturity with their trauma that they're offering you something. And that's the part of bah. I'm a bah too, but I got to be a bah with Dr. Daniel Siegel, with Stephen Porges, Peter Levine, with people who are smart and their data replicates. And again, I know copycats, so I don't want people here that don't take care of themselves, because I don't like to watch as my brothers and sisters wither away. And no, I don't tell them in their face, because I'm not the martyr superior, and the therapist taught me how you can't tell anyone that they have healing to do, because again, they will turn it against you. That's why I love emotionally immature people. They always give me a good time. It's not a challenge. They actively only know one trick up their sleeve. It's how to twist shit in a way of making it look like you need to look at yourself. I do look at myself, which is why bringing that in doesn't work, because it's, sure, of course, common sense, but I'm bringing a conversation in a very specific way for a very specific reason, and you're just turning it around, making it seem like I need to maintain a level. Nobody's putting anybody above or below. So insecurity always has somebody doing that, and I, on the other hand, don't need to do that, because I'm the wheel of my own self. Dharma people and the justice know how to balance themselves, because nobody's saying I'm perfect. I'm an empowered feminine though, so yes, I do know everything about Maria. And when I learn something new, I get to share it with you all. And that's why integration of the brain is really awesome. Peace and contentment for my brothers and sisters who will choose to become their own pilgrim. Even in the stillness of meditation, the pilgrim feels the movement of the heart toward what it loves. You don't own your heart if you don't own your child parts, because you don't own your right brain, because you don't own the capacity to say, I'm imperfect and flawed, I have mistakes, I will make them, but I'm not weighed down by it. Why? Because I have inner peace, and I know that God decided my fate when I will die. Everything else is the destiny that I can create. I do have free will because I understand how my brain works. Thanks, Robert Sapolsky. Determined. As Dr. Daniel Siegel points out, people can own their own self. When it's a whole self, you don't feel change because your child parts come with you. Right here. I come from the future. Did I mention that? So as a mystic, I already knew the minute I got clairs that I wouldn't be welcomed by all my Christian Catholic upbringing people, which is sad, but that I would be welcomed by the real ones, like the real mystics. And the real ones are all the people who will look forward to their health. So their integrated brain, their restorative embodiment, not because they have to do it, no, because it makes sense. So common sense person is basically what I'm telling you. It's all humility and integrity, and we do have fun, and we don't have pent up energy. We have when we get, like when I get all, and that's my 16-year-old with my 1-year-old with my 3-year-old, with Maria who says, yes, 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 14-month-old. We would love for every one of our brothers and sisters to choose themselves, but you already know, breathe, it's none of your business, because you have your body and your brain, and as your teenage friends told you, you don't do what we tell you to do. And that's right, because I don't follow morons. Thank you so much, Gut, for being so great. And that is why teenagers didn't like me, and that's why grown-ups too. The difference is I'm a grown-up, so I don't do any of what you see. I'm just letting you all know. Integration of brain, awesome. Anchored in ventral energy, awesome. Deb Dana's doing a great job teaching her therapist about it. Others are not doing a great job getting themselves to Deb Dana, and then they tell people you can't always be on, and you think, wow, you don't know how to create resilience in your own brain, and you're learning all about it. Why are you in school again? Excuse me, did you get how many degrees? Wow, why are you interrupting classroom time with your question? He already answered your question. When I have to put up with people that, as God points out, Maria, leave it alone. They're wasting my time. No, they're not. You get to learn about buffoons. That's true. You're right. I have walked like an Egyptian. So I'm a buffoon too. The difference is I know data when I hear it, and I know a story when I hear one, and I always get irritated when they're adding fluff around. So here, flaky, non-committal, aloof. Learns, grows, adapts, studies. So when it's dark, it is aloof, non-committal, flaky. Okay? When instead we have light, it is learns, grows, adapts, studies. Okay, so let's go back to this. If I got a hierophant who's a trickster, I got a marriage that don't work. When it's within yourself, okay, stay focused on yourself. Please don't bring in romance in this moment, because the minute that you don't know how to not trick you, you're not romance material yet. That's the part, excuse me, let me go grab. That's to a securely attached, non-traumatized woman, excuse me. I don't do let me marry you when you are an orphan who has exiles, protectors, bad habits, and everything that withers away at your body and your brain, and then I gotta handle Cusco because I don't want to handle anything. I ain't your mama, I ain't your pop, I ain't your wounds, I ain't any of it. So you go and become a fierce lover with Tira Rio, Patrick Tian. Okay, at IHP we heal trauma seriously because we take note of ourselves and we make sure that we are in our mental, emotional, physical health. That's why you can be the hermit and the wheel of fortune of your own, and that's why you do know how to balance it out. And again, I have a good time with insecure people because I ain't telling them. I'm not going to play the know-it-all because that's exactly where I'm not a know-it-all. I can tell because I'm a nervous system like you, and also because the only way people will use their mouths when they're not securely attached is in the very same way of pointing a finger, which I don't do because I learned as a kid that I don't need to. Healthy self-worth people will not be with those who are not healthy self-worth, because my ventral energy will basically, at some point, shape, or form, they will be very irritated by my presence. And because I'm Miss Perfect, which I'm not. But the point is, I know how to talk, I know how to walk, and I know how to think. So I don't trick Maria because I'm imperfect and flawed. And people who want to tell me they have some promise to make, again, when it's a healthy, we got a mammalian heritage, okay? So we got an integrated brain with a restorative embodiment, self-aware, accountable, regulating lifestyle, and you create resiliency. Stephen Porges was going to write a book with his wife of what true love is, which is only when you are able to sit down with each other like our ancestors did when this ventral vagal state was on. So the people who use reptilian, now I know where they got it from, by the way. There's Buddhist psychology, and so when someone say, I bring together a lot of things, the human, spiritual, and spirituality. I don't make up reptilian species. But my point is that those who live their brainstem, yeah, Robert Sapolsky, thanks for your book. So when I see the other soul age groups, yes, I notice them, like the fancy lady and man in suit, because they're the same ones who are basically liar, pants on fire, because they have distorted masculine and feminine, and they don't know how to use the animal within them. They know how to say, I'm an animal lover, so I don't eat animals. I'm going to go hug a tree. Any exaggeration with the story behind it. Okay, wow, you think you know how to be, when people are dressing up like animals? Yeah, okay, I got it, but that is meaning to me, wow, you don't feel comfortable being human. I'm so sorry. Who knows what trauma happened in your home? There's something that's why we don't have to heal all trauma. We can have freedom of expression. I'm just pointing out, you don't feel comfortable being a human in your own flesh. So you haven't actually grounded yourself in the physical body, because if you had, you'd be like, wow, I'm a human. How awesome. I have an embodied brain. Integration of brain. Again, ventral energy is a very straightforward equation, and it's really fun. So with that being said, let's see. Learns, grows, adapts, studies. Aloof, non-committal, flaky. Okay, so when we have a person who says I do, but they don't really mean it because they don't mean it towards themselves, you're going to notice because they are flaky, non-committal, aloof. Basically, they do things that are inconsistent, and that's because they don't want to really live a life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self. Okay, and so bad habits are not fun to watch in general, but those who do live a life that is with their protective mode will be like the fancy man and lady in suit. So they will think that they know shit, and that's where I don't know everything. But I do know that we all have a deep longing to answer the call, to get, nobody's stuck. You're not stuck unless you don't know how to handle your own emotional plane. And that's why when I hear people saying that there's a blocked chakra, I'm like, I've only met one person as a Reiki master. One human being had a blocked third eye, the back. And as her and I talked, because this is social time, she told me what she was on, and she was in therapy and all this stuff. So I understood, because of also the whole history, what was the deal. Okay, so again, no perfection, no, but we do take accountability seriously. I'm very happy. What makes me happy is that without us, those of spirit, it's okay, because science has figured it out. They figured out how to bring well-being into the hearts and minds of my brothers and sisters. And so I know that anyone who has any form of rigidity or chaos, they're healed. I don't need to do anything. And I've already decided since IHP began, be yourself. Why do they need you? They don't need me. I'm a bonus, because I do personal development, self-help. You don't do spiritual development if you're not actually accessing all of you. You will manifest. Spirituality experts who tell you that you won't manifest with trauma. Oh no, manifesting millions is pretty much very straightforward. People who get worried, they're the 4D3D brothers and sisters. I get concerned, yes, but I will also be at ease, because I find inner peace in the knowledge that any smart human being, stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable, will be an integrated brain with intelligence, well-being in the forefront, and they're anchored in ventral energy. Otherwise, they're not smart, because again, there's enough of the data around for free for anybody to, I actually shared this data with people, and I walk and talk, and whenever somebody confirms again, everything to the point of, I don't want to go to therapy. No, I'm good handling myself just the way I'm at. And then, yeah, you're right. There are moments when I don't like being around you, but now that you told me this really makes a lot of sense, because yeah, my child parts are here and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, no, I don't want to go to therapy. I like what you do, because you do it in a way that allows me to do it by myself. Yes, I know that there's bad therapists, but there's therapy for a reason. Your physiological state, like I am. Again, my 3-year-old, she comes up. I apologize to my mom and my twin, and I keep trying. Those are the only two people that I get reactive with. I also don't have bad manners and bad habits, and I'm gonna do enough to be saluted. That was not my fault. And it was not his fault either. He's an insecure human being who apparently, with a wife and a published poet, doesn't know what to do with his life. I mean, really, it's very explainable when you have a good gut what people are doing. Like I said, I came from the future. I knew that once I got Claire's, and I now understand why. I love to love, and my baby, he loves to laugh and live and learn and expand and not cast stones. I love sunsets, and that's a beautiful picture. So when I think of those who actually call their breakups, what is it called? Like, oh my God, I'll never love again. I'm like, why? Don't you learn? Aren't you learning about love? Because if you don't know how to love yourself first, again, you need Patrick Tan or Terreal. So when you do know what love is, teenage boyfriend is breaking up with me, and finally he's made up his mind. A month after, I'm like, the grown-ups were liars. I love him the same and her, and I'm happy that thanks to my love being pure, because I don't say I love you and you're in my herd and I kick you out. I'm like a Sid who will say, Manny, don't be mean to Diego, because Diego is imperfect and flawed like we all are, and it's because, no, not me being rejected, but like the ugly duckling, I can become a swan. And no, I don't need to make it sound like some amazing story, because this is the part of what self-acceptance is. Thank you, Terreal. As an empowered woman, I have acceptance where if you call me a bitch, a whore, a crooked asshole, witch, whatever, keep it coming, you ignorant human being. I have no words for ignorance. It's you don't know. One, hands means you don't know how to use your mouth. Words, if you curse in my face or you begin to get all agitated, if you twist shit up and you don't notice it, I'll notice it because I'm noticing it. So you don't notice that you lack self-awareness, accountability, or regulation when you're a person who wants to ignore your own exiles, protectors, and moodiness. I don't ignore my moodiness because my mother taught me how to share floor, and I got to be grown, raised with God, who is discerning equanimous love. And as a mystic, I said, spiritual self-agent. So true spirituality, I can live a life of meaning and connection because Maria doesn't have insecurities. She has self-acceptance. Take me as I am. The only God, one. I don't play divinity. I don't play God. No, 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 no. I'll see source in everyone because I'm a soul and so are you. But I'll know that I'm meeting you for real if you're an unconditionally loving human being who has flaws and imperfections and can present yourself with integrity, which is not, I've never seen a medium ever. No, it is with respect to that which is diversity. And that's with a humble ventral vagal state, which gets easier and easier as I continue my physical mastery. I'm an Akashic record reader. So when you learn how to be on your own, I'm self-taught. Mental, emotional, physical plane mastery and oneness with Akash and Source doesn't make me tell you I'm greatness. No, because that's actually something that I'm like, ego, you look so beautiful. Maui, Maui, Maui. I don't stroke people's ego like that. I just say, look, my ego is just as amazing as yours can be. Please. I was raised, again, in a way that makes me know. I can tell you what my charges or biases. I was raised with a Christian Catholic foundation, so I know how to separate, and it's not out of the disrespect of us being part of divinity or no, but I have this capacity to understand that no, we don't embody completely anything because I'm a speck of it. You embody another speck of it. So does my brother. And so that's why I walk like an Egyptian. Again, love and fear, they coexist. And fear is actually necessary in life, which is why there's no winners or losers. When I'm meeting a fearful one, because I differentiate, don't feel their nervous system in their shit show. I don't know what they feel because I've learned how people who are cowards, like the teenage boyfriend, don't know how to take accountability. As he's telling me, you only believe in God because you're afraid. No, I have faith because I grew up with it. One, I can make sense of it, but I feel it in my bones. And today I'm a mystic. What I love, synchronicities. Man, I love being with my other 5D collective people. Even if they are all on a journey, there are those, we are all on a journey. But what I'm saying is some of them are slowly getting to places. But when I get to do stuff, there was a recent event, I'm thinking about that one. We'll save it for story time. In the meantime, what I was trying to get to as I get distracted by my phone is that, yes, we all have the animal kingdom within us and that lovely capacity to travel and to be consistent. You're only consistent when you're able to be energetic. You're only able to be energetic when you treat yourself well, and that's with the, again, brain and the body, and it's a journey for people. So when I see people who are slowly getting there, it's great. I just think, wow, you could be way better if you had support. Some of them do that, and they already are with the awareness of it. But it's just, I'm getting distracted by what I really would want to talk about now, which I won't. We'll save it for the week. Story time. In the meantime, be kind. You don't have to get in people's faces, and you don't have to point out anybody's flaws or imperfections, because emotionally immature people, they stay immature or they won't stay immature. What makes me sleep well at night and happy is that all of my brothers and sisters who want the kingdom of God within them can. They don't have to believe in God. So the teenage boyfriend, the only reason he didn't believe and still doesn't believe in God is because of evil and because his friend killed himself. And I'm like, that's not, no, I didn't say anything. That's putting a finger in a wound, as the saying goes. So only immature human beings do spiteful shit and don't actually recognize it. And as a teenager, I did one little conversation with these little sword, quote unquote, fights, which is why I tell my mom, I don't spite you. I'm an ego. I'm a 3-year-old. I choose to tell you, and you let me speak to you. So yes, you get to hear me, but I'm just telling it to you. I'm not spiting you. Spite is an energy that will be able to be perceivable by any person. It's down here in the gut, and there's your animal who is not an actual mature 3-year-old or 1-year-old or 16-year-old, and it's not a self-led person. Again, spiritual self-agent. Last night, late HP show, if you want, tune on in. But what's beautiful about people who actually mean what they say is that you see them thriving, and then you see them having compassion and understanding, but we don't pat each other on the back either. So this is the part of why you don't need to add fuel to a fire. You don't need to take it away. You can sit in the middle with anger, sadness, fear, because those are those 3 main subcortical areas anyway. Self-agency, anger, sadness is bonding, and fear is certainty. Fear rules me. And then self-agency. As for bonding, it's very straightforward. I'll cry myself to sleep, sure, maybe, but it won't be suffering, Zen master, because I use my prefrontal. So people who breaking up is hard to do. No, not as you're growing up and realizing that the not securely attached person is fucking boring. I don't have fun when I have to put up with emotionally immature people. I learned to have fun because I said I will honor the promise I made to God, and I will honor my brothers and sisters. That's the reason. It's not out of spite, but it can be linked to childhood. So that's how you will know, because you'll perceive your child parts with you. The ones who are not knowingness of themselves, they are not spiritual self-agents, or simply put, mindful self-agents is how, if you don't like the spiritual thing because you're not a person who is in it. So I didn't point out to the teenage boyfriend why he was in his effective realism being an asshole, and I just said, wow, I'm gonna marry this man. I can't prove shit to him, and I won't. And I learned that I won't ever prove Maria and her faith, because there's no need to, which is why when you hear spirituality, people say, we're gonna prove it. Sure you are. Again, science is looking into spirituality, consciousness. They're going to make empirical mysticism. The faithful ones aren't afraid of it, because again, you don't distort our faith, because it's not the word. It's actually a very specific bond that has no words. Empowered feminines navigate with no words, but we love to speak because we're not imprisoned by them. The ones who don't like us, they're imprisoned by their own stories. It's okay. Again, Cusco, I can see you a mile away. I got an ego too. Point is, integration of brain, that's really amazing. So I'm at peace and I'm content, because if I died today, I know that all my brothers and sisters are safe. And so person who cares about brothers and sisters, and that's for my mystics who say they're mystics and healers and spiritual. You trauma dumping. That's not a healer, not to mention you don't heal people. They heal themselves if they take themselves seriously enough to notice how you walking. Walk like an Egyptian. Are you walking a straight line? Can you wake up refreshed, energized? How's your sleep? How's your eating? The basics. And if you didn't learn it, Patrick Chan, what was it again? What a person who doesn't know how to love themselves first, what do they need to do? They need to be taught how to be their own parents because they didn't get a good parenting. So when I see people who laugh at me because I live with my mom and they drink and they fuck and they're miserable and they're in college, I'm not thinking, oh, Maria, be ashamed of herself. In my head, I'm like, if you can't say something, no, I don't even bother singing that, because again, once you meet one immature, another immature, another immature, another, is just gonna have a good time, because Cusco, again, this is something hilarious. What I do love about our 5D collective is that there's mystic, spiritual, mindful, living, loving people who are badass for real, because they're using their prefrontal, not their little hissy fit. And that fancy lady in her suit, she gave me a flashback. Teenage years, you have no emotions, you're insensitive. You know what? You're pretending. Oh, so at the end of the day, it's really nice to know who my 5D collective brothers and sisters are, because I was wondering about it and I really didn't think 4D and 3D would stay stuck. Now I know. But then again, we do have people who don't take their children to hospitals because they believe somehow they still read scripture in a way that's saying to them that nope, you need to not go and get your. That's the part. It makes me think of one of those movies where we have different types of timelines. It's on Earth. We don't need to go anywhere, but we will go places. And I'm okay with science and technology. I look forward to them saving those who will be from the future. And here's where, if you're not grounded in reality, please, I mean, again, I'm the woo-woo pseudoscience lady, but I want the children, because there's people who say they want children. Yes, then they don't know how to commit to their children. Because, you know, again, if you're not living a physically healthy lifestyle, you and children don't, am I being too harsh? Hey, Patrick, what do you think? Am I being too harsh by holding people accountable? Thanks, Patrick Tan. I hold all people accountable. So if somebody wants to tell me they want children, but they lead an unhealthy lifestyle, you're just bullshitting yourself. But then again, I do know how bullshitters work. Adaptive child part people think they know everything. So again, you'll spot it like a hawk, the inconsistency. Because if I'm thinking of child, and I'm thinking long term, and no, because short term, that's short sighted. So you don't know how to use mindfulness practices, and it's not too serious, it's thorough. So to speak words and then to not think of what the repercussions, so you're not thinking every action has a reaction, everything. This is the part you can have. I have faith, but that doesn't mean that I don't know I'm on a globe. Anybody ever heard of the joke? There's a man, he's on a mountain, it's flooded, or there's flooding going on or something like that, and he prays to God. And he prays to be saved by God. And he gets 3 human beings who go to try save him. He dies, he goes up, hey God, I prayed to you, why didn't you come? I did. I sent you the fire or whatever, I sent you that. So I sent you 3 ways for you to get out of dying. You didn't take him. People who don't understand that aspect are the people who don't understand, why are you making up bullshit of you not wanting to help the environment? Because who? You're pseudo intellectual asshole? Who are you following? Why would people make up so many stories? And it's not exaggerated. So we have a group of grounded in reality people, and then we got a bunch of people who I see them on YouTube. And the fact is, it's not because they are not wanted. It is because the people who follow them follow the story because they support it like this. And you'll see it because I will not, it's just so much. I saw this poster, if you love animals, you don't eat them. No, I eat animals and I love them. What the fuck? So extreme. So when you don't learn things and you exaggerate them, that's what I will say we're going to keep talking about throughout the week, because we're bringing human to spiritual elements. In the meantime, it's really nice to know of the lovely therapists out there who are doing a great job at helping anybody who wants to become their own hierophant and lover. The first thing you want to know, if you're new to the channel, by the way, there's different types of tarot, and this is a major arcana, and this one though is an in-between. So let me see if I can grab the book. And I do enjoy some of my decks more than others, but I use all my decks because they all have a meaning, and that's because all of the energetic frequency has meanings. But I'm here with the 5D collective, so when we'll have our tiers, we'll have more of these types of in-depth episodes and stuff like that. So you, when you're at lovers, a crossroad, the original way it was told, and again, I'm bad with regurgitation, but it was that you're being given the opportunity to make a choice to expand yourself. And that's where 6 lovers is harmony and balance. Okay, while 5, that's like the human hand, which is where we got our mammalian heritage. So being able to be your own, again, animal and pilgrim in the light of it is when you're going to be, if you are considering being a lover, okay, a human being who loves, you can be spiritual, again, the solo self, because you offer the best version of you, because you know how to use your nervous system and your brain. This doesn't mean you're absent of any trauma. No, trauma charges, we all have them. Again, that's why there's a journey to it. The ones who are securely attached and untraumatized, we're not boring. We have ease at being able to and we also don't follow, let me pat you on the back if you come tell me that you have the avoidant. I'm not going to put up with your mixed messages and signals. Ambivalent, disorganized. You, if you're with a good therapist, you don't bring to me the half-ass. You bring to me who you are, what you're doing, and then there's conversations, of course, because as Dr. Daniel Fox presents, anyone who has maladaptive patterns will fall back on them. That's totally, I fall back on my bad habits. I don't like to do physical activity. I love to chit chat. I love to do what I do with YouTube, with all of the podcasts, with all of my content. I get chimed in with moderation, and I have that recurring messenger who tries to remind me life wants you to experience all aspects of life. Okay, so this is the part of when you're a common sense human being who knows how much you can fall to the side and you catch yourself, but it's thanks to the healthy self-worth herd. Manny, Diego, and Sid make the perfect team with a Pacha and a Cusco. But we all basically live like a Pacha. So that's what integrity is. That's what an oath is. That's what a village does. You don't do toxic village. No, you do, we're all this. And of course, we can have the underlayer of this, which is why, again, I'm not saying Maria doesn't have this. I just don't have this because I never said you're bad. And I don't have this because I also know how to stay open-hearted, because I said, yes, Jesus, God, and Holy Spirit. I say yes. So my child parts, they never got to this because I learned how to walk like an Egyptian. And that's actually because my number one motivator is fear, physical safety. I want certainty. But my second motivator with my subcortical areas, thanks Dr. Daniel Siegel, is self-agency. So I don't look to bond with you to get meaning. No, not at all. Bonding is actually only one area, and it's I'm a straight shooter. I'll tell you in your face, which is why in last night's IHP, or maybe here too, I said I don't have social manners. People have to teach them to me because I'll just tell you what I think, and then I'll think nothing of it, and I then have to handle either your insecurity or so sorry, let me learn how to handle you next time. I won't tell you any news because, you know, when life's shit, apparently I can't tell you my good news. And so you learn how to walk around people's insecurities. It's not eggshells. I mean, really, it's something called they have a hole in their heart and they're not healing it. So insecure people are not fun to be around because they all sound like whine. They're not even whining teenagers. Oh, this is the part. My 3-year-old is a grown-up. So she comes through as a grown, meaning that it comes through in a very different way, which is why you don't make excuses for it. You allow yourself to apologize, to take ownership, and then to see what mindfulness practice could I bring in? Can I learn to breathe? Can I identify the trigger? But that's why you all know your story. I know mine. And again, the only people that my 3-year-old comes out with, and I told my mom, it was a couple of days, I was like, it's because you let me be angry. I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm just saying I'm a grown-up. So it's, there you go. I got it out. But at least I tell you, we talk, you know, and stuff like that. So it's not justifying it. It's talking about it. And people who do have a tendency to spite, that energy and that mannerism is quite obvious, once again, to the person who's bringing into the room, to the person who's clear and who can also understand, like Dr. Daniel Fox says again, that there are habits and patterns, but it's only with a self that is aware and deciding I'm not going to bullshit my marriage between my own divine empowered masculine and my own divine empowered feminine. I'm going to choose to be not the trickster of myself, but the person who says, okay, this is an exile protector, whatever the words, you know, my fight response, da-da-da. If you know yourself at that point, you'll know this is not what I want. I want to be this. So what am I going to test out so that I don't do that? Because I can take my ego and present it fully in the absence of playing the trickster to myself and to another. The reality is pure consciousness. That's why it's because with yourself, you're not having the shame or the blame or the fault or the revenge. You're not a spiteful kid with mixed feelings going on. You're aware of who you are. And then you're able, again, to have peace with a moment of, okay, my shit came up for a moment, whatever it is. Again, that's the inner growth mindset. You have a neutrality and duality conversation, and you have a objective of, I'm going to have this lover, this harmony within me, and be my own hierophant. So you don't look to an external figure. You don't look to the Pope. You don't look to the guru. You don't look to the prophets. You don't look to a mist. You don't look to anyone of faith, because you have your own faith. If you're science, then you can go and do Robert Sapolsky with determined says you have no free will. Dr. Daniel Siegel says you do. And so do others, because you can work, like with Pat Ogden, on your embodied brain. So the part of free will, you can twist and turn your words. If you are caring about your life, you're going to know at this point in the year 2025 how to do shit. And then how to make sure if it's hard. So when I've had people say it's hard to stop doing something that is not nice, that means you need help, and they don't go, and then they make up words. Everyone else is an asshole. I can be an asshole too. That's not actually something you want to do, but that's the moment of truth where the 16-year-old is fighting their own self. They don't want it, and there's no point in telling them anything, because only martyrs and blamers act this way. The martyrs think they're superior, and they push. You pushing ain't going to change the mind of an insecure human being who's just told you, I don't want to do it because all people are assholes. They just found an excuse. So when they're doing their flip-flop inner and outer critic, there's your orphan. It's structural dissociation, and their excuse is nothing. They just ruminate like the Zen master does with laundry, and telling you that you can't be in the enlightenment frequency, that nobody is enlightenment. Whenever you hear nobody and everybody, I know sometimes I will try to catch myself, but the point is all or nothing is not what exists. So a functional child adult knows how to talk and walk. And that's exactly why, again, these are all amazing. We'll keep coming back with more of the empowered messages. When you are your own mother and your own father, you don't have any of those attachment wounds. You are a star baby. You don't flare up. You know how to chit chat, and therefore you do appreciate that which is, wait for it, Anima Mundi for sure. For some of you, if you're still here, you're having a good time. Mystic mentor, content creator, and podcast host. We'll add shaman too. Why not? At the end of the day, they all have a beautiful story to them, but when you are embodying, again, as a mystic, I bring it all in. And it's all separate, and it's all the same, and it's all fun, because I'm not imprisoned by words. And the 5D collective are going to be fun. I'm not looking to have people who are going to be assholes to each other. It's nice to have fun and to talk about even the word divinity and God and people, that's generator of diversity. Thank you, Dr. Daniel Siegel, for that word. And he told some of those who are within the, I don't know if Christian Catholic faith, but he told some of them, and they're like, no, we're not offended. And so when you meet those who are smart brains, they don't get offended, because only people who smell get offended. That's a translated Italian saying. So the sensitive egos of today's YouTube are really just a bunch of exaggerated versions of something that I witnessed as a teenager, which is why, as my smart friends say, probably not as bad as you think it is. I'm like, you know what, you're right. And so we'll be back again with our lovely 5D collective. Let me grab the phone that I keep turning away from the camera. So what gives peace and contentment, again, is integration of the brain and anchored in ventral energy. But by the way, it's not just contentment. This, I got a spark of from somebody who was asking us on YouTube to share what gives you peace and contentment. So I'm happy that my brothers and sisters can achieve their inner well-being with fear and love and with themselves, because again, when you are self-empowered and enlightening, you do love to bring out the lover in you, and you know that you have a choice to take that siren, whatever your siren is, whatever that sympathetic fight responses and work with it. This is why it's not your journey, and self-mastery is the journey, which is what makes spirituality so amazing, when you are embracing the human elements with the spiritual elements, which is what we'll be talking about as the next week comes about with being yourself. So it is the ability to bring out the best in others that makes you a leader. Thank you, Sadhguru. You're a leader of lovers or fearful ones. Again, fear has a place in our entire makeup. It doesn't win, but in life and love, it keeps you physically safe. That's why those cards that I showed you called to me, because I knew there was something about it already a couple days ago. I just chose to wait until today to do it. But the mammalian heritage, it's not the savage animal. When you watch movies that are all torture and terror, and I mean, I don't have that inside of me, and I don't want to watch it. And those who say you're excluding yourself, no, I'm not. My body doesn't differentiate. My brain, when watching TV, if you learn the studies, doesn't differentiate between what's real or not. And my nervous system, why do I need to put my nervous system through that? There's already suffering out in the street. I don't need to be it's not entertaining, by the way. I think of the air, the water, the food. I think of basic necessities, which I don't exaggerate. Thank goodness I don't have that level of anxiety, because I can't do it all by myself. Oh, no one does anything by themselves. We're a whole village, and we got morons who don't think the globe is one, and they actually are so inconsistent that they will talk about each other's political shit, and then they don't notice that they will praise certain things that involve people from all over the world. The idiocy of that, which is my personality, my identity needs to be all one, and then not noticing that there's not this anymore, because we have planes and we are travelers. We're not pilgrims. I'm not even laughing because it's right now. I'm laughing because the cards, I love these. I love when, again, universe, Akash, source, pilgrims. We're not the pilgrims of yesterday, and people who don't realize what year it is are stuck in a time that is no longer, and it is because of their lack of security that they get rigid, and then they suffer life, and they suffer change, and they suffer what year it is, and they will have, to me, the go and be with those groups of people who don't take their children to therapy, no, to the hospital, not even to therapy, but in therapy. I love Michael Yapko. He says he has this attitude about him because people think Buddhism is meditation, and or they think mindfulness, means you're turning my kid into a Buddhist. No. Mindfulness. So now the therapists have made secular mindfulness, and you know what somebody's going to say about that? They're just manipulating their words. And then there's people who will say, oh, why don't we call it something else? Why are you tricking people? We don't need to call it anything else. You educate people. If they don't want what's healthy for them, it's your life, not my life, your body, not my body, your brain, not my brain. And that is where, when you get talked common sense, that's common sense. So while Neil deGrasse, he shares the miracle of life like God does with me, he says he wishes the educational system was better. And I'm like, it's not the education system. People don't want to get securely attached. They spite their own selves when they're doing the maladaptive pattern dance, inner outer critic, drinking, drugging, fucking, any binge eating, binge watch, whatever it is, surrounding themselves with little fairy tales, and then not noticing the inconsistency. You don't say I do if you don't say I do to you. And so as long as you meet a person who is not securely attached and who gets on screen and lets you know, I'm going to tell you all about avoidance, let them be whatever they want to be. Again, I have no room at IHP for any of those who are lazy cowards, because there's a buttload of free content that every person who has ever come across it will recognize things, and then they'll make up an excuse, and it's boring to hear the excuses. And it's also time that people, at least again here, understand, yes, there's a bunch of different types of mystics, and I didn't think the 4D would stick around, but they are. And they'll tell you, how dare you come and tell me it's because of my subliminal messages that you are going to be able to be in the higher frequency, the DNA upgrade, your crystalline body. I got it. I loved and still do love learning everything. That's why we're all needed. But okay, did you accept your animal, meaning you're mammalian? I don't think you know who you are, Elsa. You got a mantle going on. We don't need you, because the empowered masculines and feminines will consistently be empowered, first of all, within the person, And two, we've had, human species evolve for eons. So we're not dying and we're not going backwards. And people who don't understand that, again, I know where they're at. And with that being said, I keep wanting to let you go. Every situation is an opportunity. Either you harvest well being or suffering. It is your choice. That's what self agents know when they're spiritual and or mindful. And that's why we don't get into our little buttholes when things change, as Dr. Daniel Siegel presents. When you're an integrated brain and a restorative embodiment self, I'm adding the restorative embodiment, because your default mode network is down regulated. My left and right work together. It doesn't matter if you're righty and lefty or lefty and righty, because some people start with the left and then they move to the right. I move from the right to the left. That's why I'm an empowered feminine again. And the more security you seek, the more disturbed you will be about every change that happens in your life. Thank you, Sadhguru. So Maria's not disturbed with change because I know how to calibrate my nervous system. I'm my empowered feminine, my mother, because I got a good example of an empowered feminine. I'm my empowered masculine because I know what an actual man is. Commitment means that you show up with the same. No unfinished business that I need to tend to, and no bad habits that make me have to, deal with Cusco and worry about you. And there's your star baby, because that's where we're a herd, like Manny and Diego and Sid again, and like Pacha with Cusco. Pacha's waiting for Cusco. He already knows that Cusco is going to come to senses and, get there. So that's why we got a Cusco too, and we don't need any Lucifer or, evil, Knievel, medieval. As for the people who still want to use that name, again, I try to let you know there's Michael Stone with his evil scale. And demonizing and dehumanizing people is what has people not embodying their full humanity. So yes, I believe in God. You don't have to. I believe in angels, and I know that every one of my brothers and sisters is an angel. Lucifer's a fallen angel. And so even if I had to use the word, which I won't, because you're creating a label when it's a human being, and every one of my brothers and sisters, 8 billion and more, can be healed, they won't all want it, because some of them just play the part. Playing the part is uninteresting, but we understand it because Pat Ogden, where are you? Trauma impacts the body so strongly, and the responses that the body has are often not metabolized, so people get stuck in trauma time. They can't move on from it until those responses are metabolized. Some people are comfortable in chaos, and their home will always be with that which is chaos, which is not this. They get to have ball in a chain, and there you go. And then they get to pretend that they're doing great and all that. And no, it's not fun to watch people who could be healthy and be living a good life. So when you are self-empowered and enlightening, you will be back over here, because you will say, yep, I'm bringing out the lover in me, and I do know whatever my siren is, again, that I want to use mindfulness practices with mindset skills and that inner growth mindset, or I'd like to hear about it, whatever. So one-to-one mentorship, you email me if you're curious for that one, if you have some plans for yourself, and that's because you can navigate, again, sift through sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, your own inner world, so you have a window of welcome to your nervous system. And that's very important, and that's something all people will know intuitively when they're presented with the data. That's why I'm saying all people know stuff about themselves. If they take it seriously, then they will bring out the best of their own animal kingdom, the mammalian heritage, and the capacity to be a pilgrim and wander and travel and be at peace with our world. We will be able to support as much as we have always been and can. So again, thanks for stopping by. We'll be back with more. Have a good day.